Hello and welcome, Rainbow Souls, to another Cosmic Heart Conversation podcast where you're joined with me, Georgie Dragonfly, and we now have a very, very wonderful guest, Jessica Starbeing Lightcoats, who's going to now bring her beautiful essence into the space. We're feeling so lucky to get to witness this beautiful energy and really explore this story, this information that is going to help to unravel those that are on this journey, on this path, that are in search of their truth and their expression, their true expression, and of course, their galactic star families and friends. Because, wow, Jessica does this really well, bringing in this energy for people to activate this. So, thank you for coming in and welcome yourself into the space. Let everyone know
Thank
who you
you.
are.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super honored and grateful to be able to share a little bit here with everyone who's interested. And yeah, I'm Jessica, Light Beam Codes. I'm an intuitive visionary artist. And of course, it's always a process for me to kind of discover new aspects of myself. But as an artist, I just really hope to bring aspects of everyone out that the people who look at my art can relate with, because I feel that we're so interconnected, and through art it gives us a medium to kind of connect with all together and see parts of ourselves that we may have, I don't want to say forgotten, but that we haven't really explored yet, maybe. And yeah, connect people in this way is something that I really love to do.
Thank you for that. Yeah. And where did it all really begin for you? I imagine that, I mean, your skills with the artwork, there's something must have been within you already to be creating artwork.
I think that I, as a child, always enjoyed drawing. For example, I always drew unicorns and fairies and elves, like these elemental beings were always something that really made me feel like I'm at home somehow. I always felt very connected to these beings, and I also drew a lot of horses. But just much later, I started to really take these energies as a more um, as a more present energy than as a kid. I definitely felt something, but I didn't really um, analyze it, I guess. I just felt it. And now I started to see these beings as a more, how do I say that? A form of communication, like a form of mm, there's so many things that come in, and I'm just like, how can I put that in the simplest way? But as a form of, I guess, the way how I create it as a form of medium, but these beings are just so strongly there. Sometimes I can feel their presence so intensively, and this medium gives me the chance to kind of express what I feel. But that just started much later. Like 2 years ago, I started to use art as a medium to really express what I felt. And before, I was working and I was very busy, and I didn't really have the time to kind of truly connect with the energies that I felt around me. I did connect, but not as intensively as I did the past years. And then once I had the time, I started to really go more inwards and find a way how I can express all that what I was feeling. And other artists really inspired me to do that, because I've seen lots of different artists expressing the energies they felt, their truth, and all of that through their art, and that really resonated with me in such a deep level that it really gave me a push to try something similarly as well. And
Mm.
that's when I started to do it about 2-3 years ago, where I started with creating spirit animals, and then creating light language with these energies that I felt, because I wanted to create a more activating kind of energy with the beings and the spirit animals that I felt, so that people can connect with that on a deeper level. Basically, that was my
Mm.
intention behind doing it when I started doing it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful intention. It's totally, yeah, it's how I see this way of working. I mean, it's quite. I mean, maybe I'm naive to it, but or well, I suppose in ancient Tibetan culture, they do have the mandalas and tankas and stuff. But for me, this feels quite new in terms of creating something specifically for someone that's a energy healing modality. Like this artwork
Mm-hmm.
is an energy healing modality. Was you already um, doing like healings and things like that beforehand? Is this something you were already interested in?
I was already interested in that, and I've worked with many healers that worked on me before that, and where uh, I did learn a few things, but I've never really practiced it on people, just more on myself and
Mhm.
some friends. But when I initially started with my art, I wasn't even thinking too far ahead. I was just like, oh, these light codes, they fit really well with the art that I'm creating. And the codes also started at some point to just come through stronger. And that then during the process, I started to kind of see how I can maybe help some people that are open to it as well to discover certain aspects in themselves, in the process also heal certain fragments that have maybe been lost, or maybe not being aware that they would like to be more integrated again, and things like that.
Yeah.
But that all this information came through during the process when I started. So at the beginning, I wasn't even aware of all that would come with time and in the process.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So how did the light language become activated?
I had a call with a wonderful soul. Her name is Hannah, and I
Mhm.
had like an activation session with her where she yeah, helped me really initiate that aspect in myself. And I believe that we are able to do a lot on our own, but we are beings that are so interconnected, where we need, or I mean, I don't want to use the word need necessarily, but where we are here for each other to activate aspects in ourselves that mirror us and help us to kind of express after these activations we receive from other people. So I got this activation from her that really helped me feel into that aspect of myself that creates light codes. And that really helped me kind of let it flow and come out. And then I had the strong urge of wanting to create light codes. It was very, very interesting to
Mm.
have that aspect in myself come out more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like that you're just getting at, even from a child, you're really obviously into lots of mystical creatures and beings, and it seems like it was always there for you. It seems just so like it's chilled. No, it didn't have like some massive wake up call. It's kind of like, did you feel like that happened or?
Well, In a way, it did. Like, I grew up actually very religiously. I grew up in a cult, we could call it that way. So I was very indoctrinated in a certain way of thinking and living. And I did live according to these doctrines for quite a while, I think until I was 21. And then when I was 23 or 22, I started to question these beliefs. And that's also when I started to kind of be more open about other perspectives and other beliefs. And I had this one moment where I heard certain information that really struck me hard and that really created a certain dark night of the soul, let's say, where I had to question everything and I had to redefine my beliefs. Of course, the cognitive dissonance kicked in really hard, where I just had a hard time letting go of certain beliefs that had I had been cultivating for so many years and living accordingly for
Mm.
many years. And so that was quite a process to yeah reconstruct my way of living and how I kind of wanted to live my life. And
Mm.
of course, it's always a process to redefining how we believe and see, because according how we develop and change, etc., that's also how our beliefs will continue forming as well, and deepening and all that. But yeah, just letting go of certain foundations upon how I lived my life, that was a challenge for sure. That was my
Mm.
wake up call in a way to kind of become more of who I really want to become, even though the path before wasn't necessarily that much different, but it did, yeah, it did changed a lot the way how
Mm.
I kind of went through all that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that happens for a lot of people.
Mm,
There's a lot of, I was at somewhere on Sunday and people were talking about that they had a really, they had to really reestablish a relationship with God and what God means to them
yes,
because, almost because of how the religious aspect had, personified and put all these rules and regulations over that. There was almost like, reestablishing a relationship. And I can relate. I was brought up in. I went to Catholic primary and secondary school, but I was interestingly always defiant, and I don't know, it was just ingrained from a child. My
Mhm,
mum was always like, "Can you just go and do the communion?" Like, and I was just like, "I don't want to wear a wedding dress." It's
mhm,
like, "No, I don't believe in it. I don't." It's just like, can you just like, you're in this school, you have to have to do it.
mhm.
And then you get old enough that you can definitely not have to do it. But um, so yeah, I think but it's kind of healthy in a way because then it helps you to really own your stuff, right? Because it's like there's an empowerment that comes out of it's almost like an initiation. If you can get kind of locked into that and come out, then I think you can get out of anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
if you've experienced a certain um, ego death or belief, like even spiritual ego death, etc., then you can go through a lot because you're not identified too much on certain belief systems basically, and you're able to be fluid and able to grow accordingly to what your intuition really wants to tell you. And of course, that's tricky too sometimes to
Yeah.
understand.
And to follow, to really listen to that little voice. I always say it's such a little gentle voice, and that's
Exactly. Yeah. And also discerning that little voice, right? Does it really come from a deep inner knowing that's truly connected with myself, or does it come from an aspect of myself that is hurt, or that is afraid, etc. Like really discerning your inner voice is also something that, by cultivating it, it can really, really help you tremendously.
Yeah. So how has this kind of developed further for you? Obviously, when you started doing the light codes, were you quite sure of that then? It sounds like that, or was there like a process of coming comfortable with this information that's from other worlds?
Um, Kind of both, interestingly enough. I did feel strongly that, this is something that I should, or that I would like to keep doing. But of course, there's also this rational aspect of myself that thinks, well, can I, like, how do I really want to keep doing that? And is it just like a side thing that I can do? Or is it something that I really want to focus most of my time and energy into it? And
Mm.
um, of course, since this is something, especially in the past few years, only it has been kind of become more aware among people, light language especially. Um,
Mm.
so to kind of understand that that is something that many people might not understand, and with time, some will. Like, how comfortable am I with, sticking to that, and fully owning that, even though it's sometimes challenging um, to do that, because I know that there are many that, yeah, won't fully be able to understand it maybe. And
Mm.
also for myself to keep diving deeper into these light codes, because it's such a complex thing. It can be seen as, like, it can be very simple, but it can also be very complex, depending how you want to work with it. And yeah, so it's, in a way, I did feel that this is something I want to keep doing. And there was also another part in me that says, well, what else could I do? Or like, how much should it be part of my time and my work,
Mm.
basically.
Yeah. Do you mean in work in terms of also like as in being like a star being that's, coming in? Is there other things from that perspective that maybe there wants to come in from you?
Um, I think it definitely will with time. There's definitely a lot that still wants to come through in my work. I do see that in the future there'll be um, changes, but I'm not entirely sure yet how that will show itself exactly.
Mhm.
But I do think that it will expand in other ways that I still can't really pinpoint yet how exactly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's too probably in this sort of advanced way that us humans are not functioning in yet. You know.
Exactly. And
I
and
really think that I
yeah.
really think this artwork's pretty like, it's doing stuff that people just don't even know what it's doing right now, It's like beyond our eyes.
I appreciate that. And I've also recently started with a project, where I don't know if, I'm not, yeah, I haven't really been promoting it a lot, but I do feel very called, because I have been focusing the past few years more on light beings and star beings, and even though they are very powerful from their energies, I also feel that we as human beings are just as powerful if we truly own that, and if we truly allow ourselves to see ourselves, right? Because if we can't really see our power, it's hard for other people to really perceive them as well. And I feel that just as powerful as we can perceive star beings, so can we perceive each other. And star beings anyway are just aspects of ourselves. At least that's what I perceive. um,
Mhm.
and So in my new project, I am creating a oracle deck of 44 soul portraits from people, because I feel that since we're all connected in one way or the other, some people feel more connected with some, and etc. I feel that it would be really beautiful to empower each other in a way that we can truly um, also support each other to really
Mm.
become who we really want to become, or how we want to express ourselves in an empowered way, so that we can fully own that and appreciate that, and not have to always look outside of ourselves in order to feel better or feel guided and all that. And yeah, that's something that want to express in my work more and more, is to really for people to just trust themselves. And of course, that's easier said than done. We always say trust ourselves, but to really feel that, not know that, but to really, really also embody this knowing. And I think that that's
Mm.
something we people kind of lack of, this embodiment of knowing how powerful and amazing we all are. At least
Mm.
that's how I perceive it.
Mm. I guess that's what, like, when we talk about the remembrance, it's about remembering that, and then talking about like DNA activations, and it's about because it's almost like there's kind of, I don't know if you perceive it like that. It's like we've been shut off to a degree to that understanding, and it's about really gaining that back. So the
Yes,
fact that you're going to be, it's the soul, it's the channeling of the soul, and the soul is the part of us that lives in here.
hmm
You know, yeah, powerful. Oh, so that's going to be a really interesting project. And so have you got like your 44? Are you going to be doing like a channeled message yourself?
yes, I will. I will channel a certain message that I receive from that soul, basically. But I will also, after I've channeled and created a soul portrait, I will talk to that person and share that message, and also try to see if there's anything the person has on his or her heart that would like to share their own message as well, and see how we can maybe combine that as well.
Mm.
So and also then at the end, see how they all these 44 messages kind of um work together in a way, so that it
Mhm.
complete to use, so that it can really incorporate many different aspects of maybe a question a person wants to ask, or maybe know about themselves. So it's still it's a big undertaking in a way, to kind of have it all complete in a way, so that it can really reach out to as many people as possible. But I trust that I will figure it out somehow and that it will all come through the way it's supposed to.
Mm. Well, it feels like you're in that space of like trusting and just going with that flow of like where you're being guided, like your soul's obviously guiding you to gather these souls. And something I just sort of saw then as well was that, like, obviously, yeah, you're getting all these different soul aspects, but it's like, you know, we're all interconnected. It's like from the one divine, it's
Yes,
almost like all these little messages really from the divine to us to like speak back to us, and they're like mirrors and reflections of, and we're all mirrors and reflections of each other. So it's like,
exactly.
oh.
Yes, exactly. And oftentimes when we connect with a person that really speaks to us, or that really has something that just resonates within us, it is also an aspect of ourself that we kind of maybe haven't connected too deeply enough, and we feel that with the other person, which to me it means that this is an aspect in myself that I just want to connect with more, and therefore feel so connected with the other person. I mean, there are also other reasons for that as well, but it's just beautiful to see how people can really awaken certain aspects within ourselves that we haven't fully felt or connected to enough yet. And this is also what I'm hoping in for that project, is that it can really awaken aspects of people within themselves that may have lain dormant for a while and that they would really like to reconnect with.
Yeah. And that really helps with everything that's going on at the minute, because the more connected we are, the more we're able to like transform and shift the human consciousness as a whole. And
Exactly.
I'm gonna just say it's interesting because you're talking about like star beings and the soul, but I suppose that is kind of similar because it's, we're obviously remembering we're like multidimensional, and so by these people remembering these, so when you draw like a being,
Yes.
that's like an aspect of them,
Yeah.
and that helps them to remember that. Um, and is there usually like messages that they want to share as well with you, even? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, because again, for me, the most important thing with my work that I do is that I want to activate codes within them that empowers them. And uh, it can also sometimes, or let's say even in the spiritual community, we have people that have all sorts of different perspectives and understanding of how the world may work, right? Or how these beings work, etc. And even outside of the spiritual community, I mean, even religion, etc. There's just so many different perspectives. And that's totally okay. But what my main message is that I want to convey is I want to empower people by it and not put them in a position that where they give their power away to a being that that they may feel connected to. It's more to feel connected with a being and to know that this is an aspect of themselves they hold within, and that they can embody these energies as well, and not basically rely on a being to kind of empower them in a sense, but that it's within them already, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. It does. And so I was just seeing then as well, it's like, okay, so yeah, that's what makes us so superhuman, is because obviously we do have all of the different, um, cosmic DNA. So it's
Hmm.
all that information, so we can actually be like all of them in one.
Yes.
So it's like it is superhuman because they might only have like so many traits or whatever because that's their framework, whereas the humans are kind of like the mix of that. That was just how I'm seeing it now, open to that,
Hmm.
that changing. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it's
And
like you're bringing each that,
mhm.
bringing each one back.
Yes, exactly. And the interesting part is of what I receive and understand is also that it doesn't just activate us, but also the beings that they connect with, like the beings
Mm,
that I create. It's not just for us, but also for the beings themselves, because us connecting and being activated also activates certain aspects of these beings. And it's like yeah, reciprocal kind of energy that that
yeah,
is powerful for the both of us.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not just, yeah, us that we kind of take from it, but we also give away, like
Mm,
we also give certain activation. Well,
yeah. I really like that perspective, and yeah, I feel that. I feel that. I don't know what's going on with my words right now. It's like these. Probably something else wants to come through, but
it's how I feel often.
yeah, my tongue starts like
Yes.
moving in a different way
Wait.
to my natural mouth, and then I start losing my words. So whenever that happens, it's because something
Yes, I
just
get that.
gonna like work it through. Okay. Um. But yeah, so because it's like I'm seeing so much stuff, and it's like really activating even seeing that, because that's something that I was doing when I was first trying to understand what was going on, because I was kind of starting all this light language stuff, and I
Mm.
would start drawing. I mean, I'm not like like your art's like mine were just like these little pencil things drawing these different aspects. It was just these beings were being drawn onto the paper, and I was like, whoa, like, and I wouldn't even, it's not like I would necessarily see them until
Mm-hmm.
it was all on the paper, and then they'd
Yeah.
have their little drawing, like art, light language around it. And it's like each time I did that, I was like, it's like, oh, like that, like it was almost like, wow, we're like meeting each other somehow in this reality now. And yeah, there definitely feels like they want to come in to assist that because it helps the whole. Yeah, not just
Yes,
like, it's not like
exactly.
a one-way street.
Exactly. Yes, it's just as activating for them as it is for us. And since,
Mm,
as we've said, we are connected anyway, our growth and expansion is has a ripple effect as well because it serves also bigger purposes and energies.
mm,
So yeah, it's beautiful to kind of see how this interaction is helping everyone in a way for those that are open to, of course,
mm, mm, mm.
allow that to
Mm.
happen.
Yeah, yeah. And do you know what? I was just thinking, so like that brought me to like ask you something.
Hmm.
So I imagine that before you were drawing for anybody else, you did draw your own aspects and stuff. So I'd love to know what that was like. What was that? What happened there?
Like I've actually never um drawn it in a way like consciously. So at the
Hmm.
beginning, it's more aspects like, for example, I've connected to a being that has very strong elemental energies, like the elves or fairies and mermaids. That's something that I really felt strongly, but I didn't consciously do it in a sense to see myself in it at first. And then just
Mm,
later on, I kind of just realized that these are just energies that I naturally really enjoy connecting with and have the strong desire to create them. And then, of course, um, energies that are more, um, yeah, galactic in the sense of Arcturian energies or Andromedan energies. And but honestly, I think I can connect with, or I feel strongly connected and resonate with lots of different energies. And I feel that that's what makes us as multidimensional beings very interesting, is that depending on what phase in life we are, what we're going
mm,
through, we are able to resonate with certain aspects of different kinds of energies more because they serve us in that moment.
mm,
So it's very multidimensional because people often ask me, so what energies do I perceive from them? And I personally think it's very dependent on in what phase in their life they are. Of course, oftentimes people have certain energies that are very, very strong, prevalent that in general in
mm,
their lives, but it's depending on their phase that they're going through, certain energies serve them more than others in that moment. And it's similar with spirit animals, for example. People have certain spirit animals that come and go, and there's also this concept of totem animals. That's an animal that supports you throughout your whole life, and then spirit animals come according to what you're going through in your life at the moment
mm,
and support you with their attributes and strength they have. So I also feel that strongly with certain energies that come through in certain times in your life that are more supportive and beneficial in that moment than maybe at a later time, which then another type of energy and is more
mm.
beneficial.
Yeah, I get that because I used to get really hung up on this like starseed thing. I was like, I'm not what starseed am I? Like everyone seems to have this knowing. I'm like, I'm confused here because this one's here, this one's here, this one's here. Like I can't pick. How can I pick one? I was like, oh, like, it just
Exactly.
was really overwhelming
Yes.
and even the thought of it. And then it was just like, it's cool. I'm multidimensional. It's like I'm not one because I'm like really channeling aspects of me, if you want to even call it channeling, I'm just like embodying those frequencies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also like if we see it from the perspective of star beings that also go through their cycle of transformation and learning and all of that, it's their soul just experiences other stars as well. So it's just as various for them as it is for us as well. And therefore, what I how I personally see it then is that the main um, the main place where I see we all come from is source. And therefore, everything, all the different star systems and all the different lifetimes we have are all there for us to experience all the things that we feel like would like to experience or have to experience, etc. However you want to put it and see it. But what truly defines us is that we are the essence of source, and that's where we actually all come from. And therefore, I personally don't want to define myself too much on certain star systems of where my soul may have lived more years than on other years or lifetimes, etc. Of course, they can be helpful to understand certain aspects of ourselves and inclinations we have. But the main frame where I see our souls coming from is always source energy. Yeah.
Well, I wonder how you would go about drawing that. How do
Yes.
you draw the source?
That's I mean that's right. We think then it has to be so magnificent and beautiful, which it is, but I also think it can also be super simple because source is in everything. So it can look beautiful, it can look maybe not so majestic, it's still beautiful. But it is, yeah, hard to kind of put that on a medium. And of course, then during the process, I do feel certain energies that are maybe stronger, like certain galactic energies that can influence the portrait as well. But yeah, I just don't want to define it too much because then people identify with that way too much, and then they kind of are, not everyone, but some are just kind of hung up on that idea basically, which is again also something that I perceive, and I don't, everyone sees things also from a different perspective, which means that someone else might perceive it differently, and therefore I don't want people to be too hung up on my perspective.
Yeah, no, I get that. And just being open to it evolving and transforming and changing and yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, I've had a few little readings here and there of people sort of saying about this star system or this particular being are carrying this, and I'm always like, yeah, okay, yeah, that resonates, but I also know this and this, and
Yeah.
I'm not like calling myself like a particular name or a particular like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, that can kind of feel then like stuck on it. Like something I
Exactly.
got, yeah, something I got at the beginning. This is why I call this cosmic heart conversations and cosmic heart space, is because it's like, think how vast that is, like, and like that's my collective of like, higher self, soul is like, it's what resonates through the cosmic heart, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
judge that as long as it's of pure love. That's
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing. I'm not so much, I don't know what you think about this, but I was sort of really tuning into this whole light thing. And, if we're just talking about the light, or,
Mm.
we can get mixed up with the fact that, light isn't necessarily always like got good
Yeah.
intentions and stuff like that. So if it's love, to me, it's like love's light's good. And then also the love part,
Mm-hmm.
they might
Mm-hmm.
be, don't judge a being that's, like maybe a fifth dimensional
Mm.
just because they're from the fifth dimension, because if they are like resonating with pure loving intentions and in that moment they're there for pure love, like
Mm.
there's not, you can't really judge that, as opposed to like a being that might be like a seventh or beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
They might actually not, they might seem like, whoa, this is some big cool energy. It's like it can do all these things, and it's like,
Mm,
whoa, like I'm connecting with this really high dimensional being. But it's like, but then what are they really there for? You know, like you gotta.
exactly.
That's the most important thing that Yeah.
Yeah. And right, we all carry our own definition of what is light and what is good, right? So if I say to
Mhm.
someone, I see this and that, I see lots of light, whatever, my definition and understanding of that might still be different than the person. Therefore, the person, the way how the person interprets it, might not be exactly what I'm kind of trying to convey in a way. So I think and that's the same with connecting with certain beings, right? They seem much higher, and therefore we take it in and think, "Wow, that's amazing," and all of that. But might not necessarily be it, and that's why it's important that we understand what our definition is of love, or how we define how we want to live, and that's also always constantly transforming the way how we grow. But and that's why being connected to oneself is just so important and empowered, feeling empowered, so um, that we have the ability to truly learn through these things, and yeah, the ability to really discern all of that for ourselves, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's a process for sure.
Mhm. And I'd love to, if you're happy to invite even that in of what your process has been, because, obviously you're doing this for other people, you're creating this beautiful codes. I suppose there's been a process of you going, right, I've got to make, I'm doing this for others as well. It's not even just your own self at stake here. You want to have clear discernment. So if you have any tips or ideas to bring forward, I think that'd be really helpful for people.
Yeah, I think it's always, of course, a process to take out your own bias, right? Because it's almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it's hard to take out your own bias, because um what you receive is defined by, or what I receive is defined by my understanding of truth, or my understanding of love and light, etc. So what I do is I constantly um, question these things. I question myself. I question my truth, not in a way that necessarily always, throws me out of my process, but in a way to really kind of figure out if this is really in alignment with myself and for the person, according, of course, to my intentions as well. So I always have to redefine my intentions and ask my intentions, or say my intentions. And then, of course, also being able to be comfortable with uncomfortable informations, for example, or uncomfortable energies as well, because not everything that that is good always feels good, right? We think that truth has to always feel good, but from my experience, truth can be very uncomfortable. So being okay with being uncomfortable oftentimes is also a process, which is, in my opinion, important to go through, because otherwise we kind of bypass certain processes that are important for us to go through. Active, like being activated, is not always comfortable as well. Like people think, I want to be empowered or strong, or like I want to be activated and live a better life, etc. And all of that is true, but it doesn't mean it's comfortable to go through that, or I'm healed, so I feel better now. That's also not always the case. Like it can activate certain uncomfortable aspects that need to come through. That's the same with shadow work. Like I think shadow work is just so important to not bypass certain uncomfortable aspects of ourselves, but to really be able to look at them and being able to um, kind of learn to process them. I think that's very important. So I think one main aspect is being okay with being uncomfortable is very important, and that is that's why often a process for me that I'm still learning, of course. And yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah, I feel like you did.
kind of,
You went through that
yeah,
process. You're constantly questioning, you know,
yeah,
and really analyzing your truth, but not in a point of like insecurity or not feeling centered, but in going right.
yes,
Always open
exactly.
to change. Always open to the evolution of that, because I think
Hmm.
that in itself is important. If we get fixated on something, then we are probably open to probably then having beings going, yes, this is the way, this is it, and then you're like, okay, and you're like following, because you're just like, whether you're going, hang on a minute, is this truth? Is this my
Hmm.
truth? You say
Exactly.
that enough, you feel that enough, then like the universe will show you whether it is or not.
Hmm.
Um, Something else came through for me that I wanted to ask you in that moment, but maybe it's gone now. There was something, it was good.
Maybe it will still come again.
Yeah, it'll
Hopefully.
float in. Yeah, I do really admire that. I honor that. And when you said about, I think, oh yeah, that was it, because you were
Mhm.
saying about like things not feeling comfortable, and because I think even activations, yeah, you could say that activations and like shadow work are like alongside each other. And I've said that to people, even myself, like people go, I'm actually feeling like all this emotion or whatever after a session. It's like, yeah, like you might have felt a bit blissful like at the time because of hearing the sounds, but it's almost like the light comes in to like push all of the
Yes,
darkness, not darkness, but the stagnation and the programs. It's like you have to face it now. Like the integration process is the most important part, actually. You know,
exactly.
so yeah.
Yeah,
So I imagine
it's
it's on sees your artwork, all the codes, the
absolutely.
remembrance comes in, and it's like, okay, now all the junk that was preventing that from being integrated has to go.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
when we do a detox for our bodies, we feel at first very uncomfortable. We have all these symptoms like headache or foggy, and the skin breaks out and all of it. It all comes out. So it's the same with activations and energy work. It's not always a comfortable, blissful thing, which we usually expect it to be, right? Like I I want to feel good. That's why I invest in something. And yes, long term, that's the goal. But the process of it is not necessarily that.
Mm.
And
Yeah, there's definitely a bravery and like a real devotion to transformation to take on this kind of path, because life does shift. I think definitely through everyone that I've spoken to on here, everyone's had some kind of really big shift in their life. A lot of things fall away, friends,
mm, yeah,
family, work, all of these sorts of things start having to be broken down and rebuilt again. And it's like you got to be prepared for that, but nobody necessarily gives you a manual or says to you like this is going to happen, just so
hmm,
you know, like because it's also unique for everybody.
right,
um
exactly. And I mean, it's also so many people start to look with them because externally things are not going very well for them, maybe, and so they look more within and start to um, understand better what all of this is about. And even that whole process sheds a lot of external things or connections, etc. And yeah, that's not always super comfortable, of course, but in a way necessary to kind of, yeah, shed all of that doesn't serve us anymore.
hmm and just being connected to the soul.
Mm-hmm. Exactly,
More and
exactly.
more connection to the soul every time. It's like that deepening
And
of the
and
soul.
also and also that is not always comfortable, being fully connected with your emotions. And that
Mm.
is often a very uncomfortable, and that's why many people resort to, you know, binge watch something or do something else so that they don't have to be so connected with themselves, because that makes them feel too much. And that's
Mm.
also yeah, challenging sometimes to be really connected with oneself. It is very empowering, but being able to hold that, that is also not always so easy. Being able to hold all of you, all the aspect, not just
Mm.
the nice divine part that tells you what you should do and what is good or not, but also that other side of you that feels too much and that sometimes feels uncomfortable things and all of it, to be able to hold all of that as a process that is very empowering once you're able to kind of learn how to deal with that, and then also with your physical body, because your vagus nerves and your nervous system, all of that is connected to it and therefore will react accordingly. And being able to also um, simultaneously deal with the way how your body deals with that as well is also a challenge sometimes and not always comfortable. So um yeah, something that I think people often would be good for them to ask themselves is, if they haven't already, are they willing to be uncomfortable, or at least trying it out, and then yeah,
Yeah.
going through that.
No, that's so true. And everything you're saying, I'm just like, yes, I've been feeling uncomfortable recently.
Me too.
putting
Me
myself
too.
putting myself in it.
Same. I mean, I feel uncomfortable a lot of the times and it's not easy. So I mean, it's a struggle for me as well oftentimes, and it's a process, and whew, it's a ride. It's
Mm,
like a roller coaster ride. It's like we
yeah,
seek salvation because we hope that we will feel better. But to me, it's not, that's not necessarily always the end goal to feel better to, but to just feel more connected. And that's not always a good feeling.
yeah, because we're connected in this human physical vessel. It's about that as well, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that really speaks to me. It's so funny. I was like, in my own inner head, I'm like, all these people talking about the phoenix rising at the minute, and I'm like, when am I going to be the phoenix? I'm still the ash. And then I'm like, I start to be a phoenix, and I go back to ash again.
Yeah, same. Like it's and then, you know, being this beautiful phoenix, but the phoenix also sheds many times, in my opinion. Many. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And I love that. So I feel like that's a really good um, transition to come into if you feel called now to share a transmission, which I could really feel like wanting to come through like nearly at the beginning. So it'd be good to get that through.
Yeah,
You can feel a lot of energy.
definitely. I mean, I feel a lot of it has already come through, but I feel that
Mm.
um I feel somehow that you have a transmission that could come through actually. I feel it more in a way that you
Yeah,
have
I don't
something
know
that you
why.
can.
It's oh, when this happens, I'm like, it's meant to be somebody else's space. And then I can feel something coming in.
Like I totally get that concept, and I mean, yes, it is a podcast, but I feel that through our interaction, through our connection of our energies, this is something that you will bring through, which is connected with my energy. So
Mm,
yeah.
beautiful. Okay, let's do this.
Mm.
So I'm all a little bit giggly and excited, as you can all probably tell.
Mm.
So just to, like, before we begin, just to root in, because we're gonna bring in energies that are quite elevated. So we're just gonna really feel that in the body. So just ask you to put your hands together, put your hands on your knees, just to feel in the connectedness of your legs, your bottom half of your body, and to visualize the energy like a spiral going down into the earth from your sacral down into the earth, with the breath, where you're breathing in, you're breathing out, and you're sending that energy down as well. So you're feeling the sensation of your breath going through your legs, into your feet and your toes, and through the earth. And just keep doing so throughout the transmission. Kinana shumpru malian marianto do suntru makai iranamo suntru musantreash ni irakitar asun iramaru turuma priash nir akyar untrumash nur akyar am nihira antrakwayash ar and ir aquariash antrayakwai ayano usun uriamai bautu kumbaina mai iramahusun urumup iambrea ish antrai ar uk ar ut ir at ar ut and ar at ar and ur ar ikt ar at ar So just feeling now the breath circulating around from the base up and then down. Just feeling that beautiful balancing sensation of waves with the breath going in and out, up, around and down. So this energy is circulating in harmony with the toroidal field of your body, with all of your chakra system and your energy systems, through the earth. You might wish to place your hands on your sacral area, just giving your body a blessing, feeling the gratitude and the love for your body, for the energy that it contains, how it functions, how it moves in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very beautiful.
Thank you. I'm seeing a lovely, beautiful symbol now with there's like a being, it's like the light body soul, and it's like holding this massive disc, a spiral disc. And it's like that energy just going now. It's like kind of bluish and purplish.
Nice. Beautiful. I love that.
Well, thank you for sharing your transmission and your energy and your gift of what you're bringing to the world, and I'm really, really looking forward to the 44 Oracle deck.
Thank you for having me and holding space and letting me share my truth. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. So, what are your current offerings at this time?
Currently, because I'm most focused on the project now, I don't really have that much extra time to do soul portraits, but people can still subscribe to my mailing list if they're interested, and then I'll get back to them whenever I have more spots open again. But they can, if they're interested in some printed art, I do have an Etsy shop they can look at. And yes, whenever I create something for the collective, I update my shop basically. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah,
Mhm.
good. So like people can, because even if you connect with collective art, it's still got personal
Yeah,
codes for you to activate that's within you. So it's so
exactly.
important that we connect. And something you said really importantly at the beginning about everyone being a part of something together, and I believe that we've all got different codes for one another, and hence why I do this, because I think that it gives that opportunity to create this like hub of all the key codes. Someone can just listen along, and then there'll be somebody along there that they'll just go,
Hmm.
whoa, I need to connect with
Yeah,
that person. There they are. I've been searching for them. Um,
exactly. And the
mm,
codes are so intuitive. So according to your blueprint, these
mm,
codes will activate respectively according to your
mm,
codes. So it's interesting that I create one type of code, but it's not one type actually, because it's very intuitive and will align according to your codes and according to what needs to be activated within you, basically. It's very
mm,
interesting. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, yeah, they're powerful, powerful codes. Codes are really incredible of what everyone is doing here. What you're doing, what everyone's doing with the creating this artwork, because it is like portals into the cosmic fields that the quantum field that people aren't necessarily visually aware of, and it's like it's giving you the visuals. It's going back in consciously aware of that information. It's like this is really big stuff.
Yes, it is huge. It's huge.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. So yeah, again, thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to be putting all of Jessica's links below. So if you haven't already, please go and check her work out, because it is sacred, it is powerful, and it's beautiful. And I'm sure you'll resonate and enjoy. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank everyone who listened until the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you.